Angeles Kings are indeed the kings of the National Hockey League. They are the 2012 Stanley Cup champions.
Hold up. And 3, 2, 1. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another post-game live here on Dime Dropper for the 2024 NBA playoffs. Before we get started, you already know the drill. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. And if you're watching on Twitter, get here on YouTube. This is the place to be. I can read your comments. Super chats are turned on if you want to drop $1 or a dime. Your comments will be answered at the end, but if you want to make a direct comment as I'm talking, super chats are turned on. If you want to drop one, come to YouTube and hit the notification bell so you know every single time I go live or post a video. We are live after basically every single night of playoff basketball, with this weekend being an exception since I'll be out of town. But yeah, we've been live basically every night. So here we go again. Last night I was just so exhausted. I had 2 practices to coach, and so I did not get this off. So now we're going to be talking about Minnesota, Dallas, game 1, and then game 2 of Indiana versus Boston, which was tonight. Now, I also want to say that I had a preview with a set person from each fan base before the series. They're out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They're out on YouTube. So go check those out. Those are good for the whole series. You know, so many things happen in the series, so many things that were discussed. So check those out. But tonight we're going to be talking about Mavs and Wolves. And if I'm being honest, this series is just infinitely superior in my opinion. And so have the West playoffs, as they've been like my whole life. It's just better basketball, more competitive, and more exciting to watch. And this, we talked about so many things with Anna and SJ. Shout out to them for joining me on that show. But the matchups to start the series: Daniel Gafford on Rudy Gobert as expected, PJ Washington on Cat as expected, Jones on the Ant-Man, Kyrie on Conley, and Luka on McDaniel. So all across the board, just like we thought. On the other side, Gobert against Gafford, Ant-Man on Kyrie, as he said, Jaden McDaniels on Luka, Cat on PJ Washington, and Conley on Derek Jones Jr. As far as schemes, Cat was hedging on the screens with Luka. Gobert was in drop coverage. Gafford was in drop coverage. It looked like, Towns hedging, blitzing. Basically, he was coming out to the level of the screen. So let me just give my thoughts on that. You know what? I really got no thoughts because that's what we expected. Although sometimes Cat's been in a drop in this postseason, so they went with that. And let me just say this. The first punch was thrown by the Wolves. Jaden McDaniels was off to a scorching hot start from 3, and his 3-ball was just falling the entire game. He had 3 straight threes in the first quarter, including 1 in transition. So the Wolves, and by the way, what an unbelievable crowd. Of course, this is my first time seeing the Minnesota Timberwolves in the conference finals, because in 2004, I was just 5 years old going on 6, and I haven't actually gone back and watched 2004 yet. So this is the first time I've really seen that. And it was an unbelievable atmosphere in the Target Center from what we heard on TV. And you know who really got off the mark aggressively? Kyrie Irving. We talked about it in the preview. Kyrie this postseason has done this thing where he's been very chill, not very aggressive, looking for his shot in the first half. Then in the second half, he really turns up. But we talked about, would he have the room to do that against this Minnesota defense? And, well, in the first game, he didn't allow that. He went right away looking to score. And Anthony Edwards, whether it was point of attack with a screen or isolation, he looked like he could not guard him. And here's one thing I noticed about Ant's defense. He's usually so physical and likes to get right into your airspace. But what's amazing about Luka and Kyrie Irving is that they're such good ball handlers. You can't really speed them up. They have the ball on a string. So you overplay them, they can just turn the corner. Because you're not allowed, you can't steer them in front with your hand that much. They've been obviously allowing much more hand checking in this postseason. But there's a level when you're really impeding progress that they will call a foul. Especially with Luka, he feels it and he throws bullshit up, so they give him to him. Not saying that was necessarily happening directly in this game. So based on with the modern rules, if you're pressing up on somebody like that and they're that good of a ball handler, Luka and Kyrie Irving can turn that corner. And that's what they were doing. And in Luka's case, he does such a good job of using your athleticism against you. And he did the same thing to McDaniels. It's exactly what people say about Larry Bird in that sense, even though I do not buy the comparisons very much outside of their build, the fact that they're white and they're not the most athletic and quick guys in the world, and they're crafty and skilled, but their approaches are entirely different. And in terms of using athleticism against defenders, that's where they have it in common. They're so calculated. It just feels like they can counter everything that's thrown at them. It's spontaneous. And Luka did such a good job of keeping McDaniels in jail, whether it was on drop coverage or trying to just get the step, mainly with McDaniels in drop in the pick and roll. Jaden is trailing from behind, did a good job keeping him in jail. And then when he gets back around, he uses that separation or that shoulder to create separation and hit that step back from the mid-range area, which I like to see Luka hitting. And in the bubble, he wasn't taking as many of those. And in 2021, I thought he was embracing the post game in the mid-range a lot more. So that was very interesting to see. The way that Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, two of the best defenders on ball in the league that have done such a good job in this postseason, were made to look like they were just decent defenders because of Luka and Kyrie's brilliance. And the way that they're so comfortable with their handle that you just can't pressure them. What you're going to have to do with Luka is you're going to have to, just like Terrence Mann played him, back up. You can be physical with him, but back up, and you're just going to have to contest that step back and long jumper and hope he settles. That's the best thing you can do, because the way Luka's getting downhill and then he's getting to the mid-range, these are pretty high percentage shots for him. So am I telling the Wolves that, I don't even know what to say. I can't say that McDaniels played bad defense. Maybe he can be better. Ant-Man definitely needs to be a little bit smarter, but the Wolves were up 21-12 after an Ant 3. And here's the craziest part about Dallas. It's all high ball screen. It's all like just take turns, ISO, heliocentric Luka all the time. But this is the type of team that can go far with this. Luka is special. He's got the LeBron-like quality in the sense that it feels like you can get a good shot with him every single time down the floor, and his size allows him to play this heliocentric way and potentially win a championship given the right pieces. The smaller guards that try to do it, or just the guards that try to do it. I know Luka's technically a guard, but he's gigantic. He's not the size of a guard. They get tired, and usually the size and length, like a Jaden McDaniels, will bother them eventually. But because Luka's so huge, McDaniels, he's looking kind of like Mikal Bridges out there in game one in the conference in the second round 2 years ago, where he was not strong enough to guard Luka Doncic. So, man, it was impressive. Wolves went on a 12-0 run, though. As I said, they threw the first punch. My boy Kyle Anderson came in and had 7 points. They were letting him shoot, and I love that he was knocking down his shots. That's my boy Kyle Anderson, one of my favorite UCLA player of all time, my second favorite college player of all time. When Derek Lively came in, though, for Dallas, and this has been a theme throughout the postseason, they're very comfortable switching him onto the perimeter, whether it's a late switch or sometimes just a regular switch. And not only does he do a good job of moving his feet, his rim protection is amazing. It's very interesting, the whole plus minus with Lively and Gafford so far in this postseason, where Lively's plus minus is just so good and Gafford's is not. But when I watch the games, I don't feel like Gafford's playing that bad. I know I've got a lot of Mavs fans now that follow me or subscribed. So let me know if you agree. I think Lively's playing better and is better, but I don't think the plus minus is making Gafford look terrible. And I don't think Gafford's been terrible. So let me know. I don't think he was as good in this game, but yeah, it was a solid ending to the first quarter for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were up 33-27 after one. Luka Doncic had just 6 points in the first. It was the Kyrie Irving show from the get-go with 13 points in the first quarter, 13 of the 27 for Dallas. The Wolves, though, came out firing 54.5% from the field and 3 in the first. Ant-Man was the only player for either team that played the entire quarter, and he had 8 points on 3 for 4 shooting to go along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. So he came out really, really well. Jaden McDaniels, 9 points on 3 for 3 from 3 in the first quarter. Cat was the one that kind of got off to a slower start, shooting the ball 1 for 5. But, it didn't matter at that point. Second quarter, Derek Jones Jr. was matching the minutes with the Ant-Man, and Jaden McDaniels, just the way he was playing defensively, knocking down his open 3, attack some closeouts. They were up 41-32, and the Mavs had a stretch where they had 0 points for about 3 minutes and 45 seconds in that second quarter. Kyle Anderson was making shots left and right. It was great. And then you started to see Luka start taking advantage of Ant a little bit. He had 5 straight points on him, and there was one sequence where Luka was. Remember, the Mavs are still switching 1 through 4. And I don't think that the Minnesota Timberwolves tried to put Cat in situations where he was being guarded by Kyrie or Luka. Are they going to switch Kyrie Irving on to Karl Anthony Towns? Are they still going to do that? Because the Mavericks have been switching 1 through 4 throughout the postseason. You got to test that if you're Minnesota next game, because they didn't do it enough. And when the best Cat this postseason has actually been the Cat that's been aggressive, looking for the ball around the basket, not chucking threes. And I actually don't think he's actually been chucking that much this postseason. I actually think he's been taking the right ones for the most part. You just don't want him to be 2-3 happy. But there was a sequence where Ant had Luka switched on to him. And, I'm always thinking blow by. And this man settled for a contested 3. And again, I'm going to go back to that quote about I don't consider it a settle. That's what you guys call it. It's a choice to shoot a 3. It's a bad one. And it is settling because you're letting the defense off the hook, Ant. When you get to the rim, that's the thing about Ant. I've been saying it all season. When he gets to the rim, he's unstoppable. And this is before he was getting gassed, because we're going to get to that part. But in the second quarter, he's got Luka on him. He's got to go to the basket. Every possession counts. Every fucking possession. Some of the shots, I'm going to continue to say this, some of the shots that are being taken in this postseason and that have been taken the last 7 years, basically since the pace and space era started, ridiculous in the playoffs to be taking some of the shots. I saw Derek White have there was a switch, so he's still being guarded by someone. And I guess in the split second that they were switching, he just pulls a contested 3 early in the game with 10 seconds plus still left on the shot clock, 1 pass in the possession. It's that's the kind of shot you're taking in a playoff, in an Eastern Conference Finals game. That's the type of shot that would get you subbed out so fast back in the day. And I know Derek White can make those. It's just when you play with that much talent, how are you not working for a better shot? Come on. I just think it's insane to me. And Derek White's a smart basketball player. But the same can be said for these games and every game. So Ant's taking that shot, and then Luka came down the other end and got an and 1 on him. So that was impressive. Then he had the spin move. He put him in the spin cycle. So it was the first time this playoffs where Ant-Man was really struggling on D. And by the way, the drop coverage from Gobert, he felt irrelevant watching the game. And that's not even totally because Gobert's bad or anything like that, or the point of attack wasn't good enough. The thing about Minnesota is this, and they've shown it all season long. They don't allow you to get that many open threes. They like to play the pick and roll. We said this with that when they played the Clippers over and over again. They like to play the pick and roll 2-on-2 and say, you know what? We have a great screen navigators in Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the Ant-Man. They're going to fight over the screen, and Gobert is the best drop defender in the league. He can take away 2 at once. So we're going to stay home. Apparently, Mike Conley claimed after the game that their strategy was to send their big out on the screens. I hope he was just talking about Cat, because if that's the case with Gobert, he did not execute the game plan at all. And I don't believe it, because they had timeout after timeout to fix it, and they did not. They've been playing with Gobert in drop coverage all season because that's what you do. So I don't believe Mike Conley in that, basically Gobert disobeyed or didn't follow the game plan all game long. That's just kind of insane to me. So, yeah, my point is this. So with Minnesota's strategy, that leaves Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving basically playing 2-on-2. And they just have counters to everything. And it's amazing because Luka, we already know, but Kyrie Irving, he's just – actually, you know what? I'll save my comments about him to the end, but he had 3 finishes over Gobert in the first half in the mid-range area inside the key. And the left-hand stuff from Kyrie, I mean, he's got one of the best offhands in the history of basketball. Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird, Kyrie Irving, Paul Westphal. Those are just the first names that come to mind. I know, Paul Westphal, yes, do your research. Those are the first names that come to my mind. LeBron at the rim is not bad either with the left hand because he's technically left-handed. But I'd say Kobe and Larry Bird and Kyrie Irving might be the top 3. Let me know if there's any other, who comes to mind when you talk about offhand stuff. But anyway, let's look at what happened in the second quarter in terms of the stats. 32-29 in favor of the Mavericks for the Wolves. Jaden McDaniels had 10 points and played the entire quarter. Nobody else had more than 5 in that quarter. Dallas shot 61% from the field in the second, but just 17 from 3. So as I said, they got 6 3-point shots off which if you multiply 6 by 4, that's 24 threes. That's not what is asked of modern NBA teams. So that tells you what they were doing, Minnesota, right? But 13 for 17 from 2 in the second for the Mavs. And you know who the leading, is in charge of that. Luka Doncic with 8 points and 4 dimes in the second quarter. And then Kyrie 5 for 5, 11 points in the second. So you go to halftime. The score is 62-59 Wolves. The Mavs are shooting 56.5% from the field and just 15 from 3. And the Wolves, on the other hand, 49% from the field and 44 from 3. So here's the funniest part is like the Dallas Mavericks have the exact opposite defensive strategy. They have the opposite defensive strategy, which is we cut off the rim. We want you to shoot open threes. And it's just funny because that's the exact opposite of the Wolves. And Derek Lively's done a good job protecting the rim, man. I have to say, and on the offensive glass, then just the two lob threats, Gafford and Lively just help Luka and Kyrie so much because if you're a drop big in Gobert's case, it's much harder to play two at once when you have a big that's going to jump that high. You know what I'm saying? So especially when you have a passer like Luka, and even Kyrie is showing that he's an underrated passer in this postseason. So it's tough to guard those. Gafford was finishing very well. He had 8 points in the third quarter. And then, as I talked about with Lively, great rebounds and interior defense. I thought Dallas throughout the rest of the game, especially in the fourth quarter, but it started in the third, did a really good job of getting their hands onto the ball when the Minnesota Timberwolves drove. And we've seen it throughout the postseason, especially in the Thunder series, that the Dallas Mavericks do a really good job of collapsing in the paint when somebody gets downhill on the other team. They have timely help, and that comes from Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. mainly for me, but also Lively and Gafford's presence around the rim, particularly Derek Lively. And that's just, it goes to, kind of prove all the Dallas fans and what they were saying before the playoffs started to the Clipper fans. And a lot of us just, when you're seeing it right now on the big stage in the conference finals. I thought Gobert, I was looking at this game more from a Wolves fan perspective because they had the pressure on them. They were the team that beat the defending champs. They're at home. Rudy Gobert, obviously I'd never root for the guy. I don't like him, but I'll tell you, looking at analyzing his team, he makes me very nervous offensively. He has terrible hands. He just doesn't look very coordinated. His footwork is god awful. He catches the ball in traffic, and I'm afraid he's going to fumble it. It's just messy to me. And that role, like when you put him in as the screen and roll, and if I'm other teams, I'm definitely like showing or hedging just to see if they would give the ball to Gobert in the short roll. He made one nice pass to McDaniels on the right wing for 3 I think it was the first half actually that he did that. Yeah, it was the first half, but I'm making Rudy Gobert make decisions if I'm the defense. When you're playing drop, you're susceptible to Gobert. The only thing he can really do well offensively is screen and roll for a lob. Stan Van Gundy was talking about that the Wolves should stop playing drop coverage. Oh, no, and so is Draymond. Let me just make a point, though. Taking Rudy Gobert away from the rim can greatly, hinder his defensive impact. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation after we mentioned it in the preview with SJ and Anna that, Gobert with this personnel, he's completely held his own. He's been fantastic in these first 2 rounds. And the Minnesota defense, you've seen when you have good defenders around Gobert, that he can look like the defensive player of the year that he has become so many times in the NBA. But when you have a drop coverage killer, it's the same conversation with Zoo a lot of times to a lesser degree with the Clippers. When you have drop coverage killers like Kyrie Irving and Luka, then man, and you can't say that the point of attack isn't good enough. You can say maybe they have to be better, but these are the best point of attack guys in the league. These are the guys that were making the Denver Nuggets lose their shit in game 2. And by the way, man, it is just showing, though. I mean, I all due respect to Jamal Murray, who I'm a big advocate for, but when Kyrie's at his best, let's not forget who he is. And we haven't seen this in a while. And it just goes to show Kyrie's in that role again. So you got to give Luka credit. He is the perfect guy. He's playing with a ball-dominant pick-and-roll god is the play for Kyrie Irving and just be the scorer off of him and also be able to handle the ball when he doesn't want to. It's just the great role for Kyrie. So we figured out now what Kyrie's been maximized at. And it's different because he was still the second option in Brooklyn, but he had a little bit too much playmaking responsibility for me when Harden left. And he didn't have a full season. That in-out with the vaccine, I was telling my friends then, they were like, oh, as long as Kyrie and KD are healthy and he scored a 50-point game in Orlando, that's not going to win you a championship. He needs to be playing his best. And I don't think that he was consistently playing enough. But this season, well, the proof is in the pudding. He's just been injured a little bit, but when he's played, he's been awesome. It's been his best season since 2018, I'd say, maybe 2017. 2018, he's actually doing a pretty good job as a leader that first year. But it's the best season since that. The dude has been impressive to me. And, I see all these Kyrie fans on Twitter trying to take victory laps about old comments. And I just think that Kyrie was not acting like this then. I'm not saying he's changed as a human being, but I think that the world has changed. And post-COVID was a weird time. And he's been paid now by Dallas. And there's also a level of no matter how much he's going to try to deny it, there's definitely a level of okay, these guys are talking shit about me. Let me remind you how good I am at basketball. And oof. And I was being very critical of him. Dude, here's the thing. Vaccine thing, let's just put that away. In the 2021 season, this guy was literally going to parties and violating health and safety when his team was supposed to have a championship chance. And you have teammates. You don't just not show up to work. I just don't think in any profession people can do that. You should be held accountable for that shit. And that's partially why the Nets didn't want to pay him. But that was then and this is now. And right now, Kyrie Irving has just been, I have nothing bad to say about him. I think he's been phenomenal in the postseason. Phenomenal, even with the stats, because Kyrie Irving might be having the best defensive season of his entire career right now. Seriously. And he's not forcing the issue. If anything, he's not forcing enough. So let's see. So if I'm the Wolves, moral of the story, if Gobert comes out on the screens, I think they should mix things up is my conclusion. They should mix things up a little bit. Don't just drop with him every time. Sometimes throw Gobert out there because maybe Luka doesn't expect it. You want to keep Luka on his toes just a little bit. And when you hedge that screen, let's see if this is one of the biggest rule changes to me that no one talks about. And it's not in the rule book, but it's, I guess, part of freedom of movement. Bigs are not allowed to hedge the same way they used to with the contact they used to make on guards. I watched the game in 2008 in the playoffs. Rondo comes off a screen. They're so strict with these calls. Rondo comes off a screen in 2008, and it was 30 feet away from the basket, by the way, which, again, people always say that don't watch old basketball because they're right. Most teams will go under the screen from 30 feet in any era prior to 2017 and on. But sometimes you wanted to send your big out to just hedge to prevent anybody from getting downhill, right, as a coach. And so Ben Wallace came out, and he showed him a hard fucking hedge, and Rondo dropped to the ground, and they called it travel. I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't think they allow bigs to do that. So the best Gobert can do is come out, active hands up so they have to pass it over your dome, over your head, over your arms. And Luka can do that. That's the thing. But at least get him to put more airtime on the pass. And with the backline protection and the athleticism of the Minnesota Timberwolves, maybe McDaniels and Towns and Ant-Man can recover on that back line. I think they should give it a whirl. They should. It's just people need to understand that there's a reason why they're so resistant to bring Gobert out of the paint because that's what he's best at. But it doesn't seem to matter against Luka and Kyrie Irving. It really doesn't because Kyrie is just a master around the basket, and then Luka is so fucking strong. So, and then here's the thing: if Gobert cheats just a second, Luka's throwing it to the sky, and then Lively and Gafford are going to punch it. So, man, this is the vision. This was the vision of putting these two together. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. You surround them with defensive players, and I can't take my L yet because they haven't won a championship yet. But I did say I didn't think the supporting cast was good enough around them. I think they needed better. I thought they were going to get close this year and then go next year and retool a little bit, which very well could still happen. But this team is not that far away, and this might be it. This might be the year. They're 3 games away from going to the finals, so we'll see. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Kyrie Irving, you want to talk about some all-time? Here's one thing I can't fucking stand, though. I hate how every game produces some ridiculous statement about all-time this and history in this. And it's like these people just don't do research and they're major prisoners of the moment. And you, as the audience of mine, has to remember that these mainstream media, they have 5 days a week and hours to talk about shit. And saying this stuff gets people like myself riled up and gets clicks. So a lot of it's not even in good faith. But I'm just going to say this. Some of the arguments that were being made were ridiculous this morning. Let's pump the brakes, please, on Luka and Kyrie Irving. They have not actually accomplished anything on an all-time scale yet. So relax. We need to stop doing that. In terms of together, Kyrie Irving is a champ. Luka's historically great, but like relax. Like some of the takes were insane. But here's what I was gonna say about Kyrie Irving though. He is one of the best under the rim finishers that in the history of basketball, and I think he's got maybe a top 5 layup package, probably a top 5 layup package in NBA history. I would think. I would put Jordan and Doc top 2. Doc probably, I would have to watch more Michael Jordan, but so far, I never seen anybody like Doc. I can't wait to do film breakdowns on that. The stuff that he does is ridiculous. I've never seen a player do the things that Doc does, even now. The finger rolls from like the middle of the key are just ridiculous. They're wild. The touch he has on some of them is just like mind-boggling. The way he, I wish Kawhi implemented this more offensively, but the way Doc manipulates the ball in his hand, like makes it look like a baseball. I've never seen anybody like that before. So, and the reason why I brought that up is because Kyrie Irving is actually one of the most underrated students of the game. If you watch my episode, Is the NBA Getting Better, which is a very raw edition of like my discovery of how underrated old school players are based on rules that aren't contextualized. Kyrie Irving, I used him as an example so many times because he's like he's like the epitome of like the modern skill. If you think about it, he's such a fantastic shooter and he's got arguably the best handle in the history of the game. Even Isaiah Thomas and Iverson, who are two of the guys I watched Iverson, so I think Kyrie has a better handle. But Isaiah, there was different rules, different regulations, and he grew up with a different style of dribbling that was taught. But I would say Kyrie's probably the best. But Isaiah's he's pretty tight with it as well. I would think those are my two top guys I would pick for that. But Kyrie Irving, what I wanted to say is he really studies history, actually. And I remember he made a comment about the lack of defense that was being played in the NBA. And he was just like, the scores are ridiculous. It's becoming like the 60s and 70s. That's somebody that knows history to mention that knows that the scores were really high back in the day. And he also said that Doc was like, he watched a lot of tape on like how he finished and cupped the ball and stuff. So like, that's part of why his finishing package is so great. So like, shout out to Kyrie Irving for that. Third quarter, let's read some stats, huh? Third quarter. 23-21. It's a little more defensive-minded in this one. 23-21 in favor of Dallas, which brought us to a 1-point game going into the fourth. The highest score for the Mavs in the quarter was Gafford. Nobody, including Luka and Kyrie, scored more than 4 points for them in the quarter. For the Wolves, Ant-Man was 0 for 5 in the third. Gobert played the entire quarter. Ant-Man played all but 20 seconds, and Gobert actually had 6 points in the quarter on 3 for 4 shooting. Just 1 rebound, though, in the quarter. And Towns was 1 for 4 in the quarter. So he hadn't really gotten going throughout the game. Now, it's anyone's game here in the fourth, and you know what that means, right? A lot of times I always preach that, like, in the fourth quarter of games, if it's close between fairly even teams, whoever has the best player in the quarter might just win it. And ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it comes down to which number one option plays better. Luka Doncic 1, Anthony Edwards 0, Dallas Mavericks 1, Minnesota Timberwolves 0. Sometimes it's that simple. And give this round to Luka. We talked about it in the preview with SJ and Anna. We said, who needs it more? Is it more important for, like, do the Wolves need Ant-Man to outperform Luka to win? And we said, probably not. You never know. You don't. Maybe you don't need Ant-Man to outplay Luka and be the best player in the series to win the series. But you need, if the Mavs are going to win, you need Luka to be better than Ant. I do believe that. I did agree with her on that point. Although now after game 1, I'm starting to think that Ant-Man might need to be better than Luka if they want to win. Because so much of their half-court offense is still reliant on him creating. Mike Conley, he can create some shots here and there, but this is the highest level of competition. He's not just getting anything against this Dallas defense right now. It's very largely on Ant. And here's my huge problem with his approach throughout the game. You cannot get into a heliocentric, let's see who gets better offense and high ball screen all game with Luka. You are totally playing into their hands. You have to try to get out and run a little bit more if you're Minnesota, but you have to try to also get Ant off the ball a little bit. Just like he said in the second half of Game 7, you can't have that dynamic of an athlete that's good at shooting from everywhere just be confined to playing behind the arc and playing high ball screen. That is just, it's James Harden ball essentially, and Luka ball. I can't stand that. And you're not LeBron, Ant-Man. His decision, he had so many ridiculously overthrown passes over the top of people's heads. So Ant, you got to diversify your approach. Mike Conley's there to set the table, so let him bring the ball up a little bit sometimes. The thing about the Wolves is they have a bunch of guys that can handle the ball, so you got to get off the ball. You can't, it's going to wear him down. He's going to guard Kyrie Irving, and he wants to play like that, then he can't close. I haven't seen Ant-Man look that exhausted before. He looks like he has more endurance than everybody in the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, besides like the Knicks before they were starting to get destroyed by injury, and then all of a sudden he was like heavily breathing coming up the court, like hanging out in the backcourt when the ball was already taken across half court. When the Wolves were in a drought and you knew the ball had to go to him to get something good, it was pretty wild. And people are talking about, the toll of guarding Kyrie Irving. Okay, come on. He's 22 years old. He was guarding Bradley Beal. He was guarding Jamal Murray. So now all of a sudden things are too tough because Kyrie's faster than them. I don't buy that. I think the offense, and we have to also remember they just played a grueling 7-game series against the champs. So that first game, there might be some fatigue there. Even Ant-Man said it after the game. We were a little tired, but he don't make excuses. That's why I love him. Fourth quarter, it was a 7-0 Luka run, and he was literally making McDaniels and Nikhil look regular. An 11-0 run it was extended to. And Ant just wasn't attacking. He wasn't trying to turn the corner. Every time he tried to drive, he would stop after like a dribble or two to try to kick it out. And I've been there before. You know what that tells me? That when you do that, so this is where you got to play basketball at any level to understand what this is. You can read. It's so obvious. When you're gassed, you don't want to take a three, right? You don't want to be a ball hog. You want to try to drive and kick, but you're not actually moving with that much burst to actually get the help defender to come. So your guy's getting an open three. You're just getting him to step over a little bit because you look like you're trying to drive. When you kick it out, it's like a semi-open shot. It's really not that clean of a look because you're not really beating your defender because you're tired, right? It's like he's trying his best, but he's not actually creating a good shot. That's all I was seeing in the fourth. And then, just taking too long to attack from the Ant-Man. So it's not a good approach. One thing that was actually getting them good offense was the Cat Gobert pick and roll. That's such a luxury to be able to run a pick and roll. You're 4 and 5. And at times you saw Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan do that. You could do a little bit more of those, especially if you get Cat the ball at the foul line, because when the screen is set, if you got to put a body on Cat coming off a screen, because that's a 7-footer getting downhill with 2 feet in the paint. If you send over to Gobert's man, he just throws it over the top, lob city, hard to kind of, deflect that pass as a low man. But what's crazy? Luka did it one time in the quarter, and it was one of the most important defensive plays of the game. Cat actually had his best quarter in the fourth, though, which was interesting. I thought he was about to maybe win him the game. He had a huge three to make it 99-98. Ant made a couple of threes, but I'm pretty sure those were the only field goals he made in the fourth were threes. Yep, exactly. He only got 4 shots off. That tells you a lot. He looked exhausted. He couldn't get to the rim. The Mavs were switching so much, and he could not get by. But the Wolves, so it was a 13-1 run by the Wolves in response to the Dallas run. But then it was an 8-0 Mavs run to close, starting with a PJ Tucker 3. And then Luka had 2 steals, including a lob. I forget to who. Dallas fans remind me. And then the step back mid-range going to his right. You don't see that very often from Luka with a step back mid-range going to his right. It's always left. And he hits that. And I mean, man, it's just the closing job by Luka was immaculate. And the Dallas Mavericks come out with the big win in Minnesota, taking game 1 by a score of 108-105. For my money, Luka's best playoff game. And I have to say, defensively, after a rough start for him, he really clamped down. Solid 1v1 defense, some good closeouts, and huge moments with those steals. McDaniels also threw a crucial turnover where he was trying to force the issue a little bit on the baseline. So you got to give Dallas all the credit in the world, particularly their 2 stars. But is it going to take 30-plus points from each to get a win against Minnesota? Because Ant and Cat can play much better than this. But here's the crazy part. nothing that they did seemed out of the ordinary. You don't have to average 30 in the series, but can you get 30 on the same night 4 times? Kyrie and Luka, they might be able to do it. They're just that good. But I wouldn't be too concerned if I'm Minnesota. But game 2 becomes a must win now. You cannot play with your food. There's no food, actually. You can't play with these guys. Can't play with them. You have to come out and beat them up like you did Denver in game 6. And we've seen Dallas in the postseason, especially, against the Clippers, especially in game 1. Man, have they had a game like that, though? OKC gave them the business, but it wasn't like they didn't compete in game 1. Only the game 1 against us was just a terrible performance. But let's see if Minnesota can do it. The fourth quarter, it was Dallas 26, Minnesota 22. Luka Doncic had 15 of the 26 in the fourth. He played the entire quarter. He was 5 for 8 from the field and 2 for 3 from deep in the quarter, 3 for 4 from the line. Kyrie had just 4 points and all from the line. He actually really cooled down here and was 0 for 6 in the fourth. But the Mavs got it done behind 2 Luka threes in the fourth. And then the Wolves, I said Karl Anthony Towns had a good fourth quarter, but he was still just 5 points on 2 for 7 shooting. And then Ant-Man, 6 points on 2 for 4 shooting. It was just not enough. And the Wolves lost the game. So let's read the lines now for the Timberwolves first. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a rough one because you didn't see his defensive impact much because of how good Luka and Kyrie were. And he's been struggling shooting the ball from 3 this entire postseason. So they could use some shots from him. 1 for 6 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, just 2 points, 1 rebound, and 2 assists. Kyle Anderson, he had a good game. 11 points, 2 boards, 2 assists in 17 minutes on 5 for 8 shooting, 1 for 3 from deep. Naz Reid, 24 minutes. A very solid game for him. 15 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, a steal, and a block, 2 turnovers on 5 for 9 shooting and 3 for 6 from 3. How about the starters? Mike Conley, I'm not going to lie, didn't look that good. He looked old, looked like he was struggling to get good shots. He took 2 horrible threes that I was just like, dude, you're one of the highest IQ players in the league. What are you doing? And then, he's the smallest guy out there. 6 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover on 2 for 7 shooting and 1 for 6 from 3. Jaden McDaniels was awesome. Probably their best player in the game. 24 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal. So he's starting to continue, kind of pick up where he left off in game 6 and 7 of the Denver series. He did have 3 turnovers, though, which is too much for somebody that handled the ball as little as him. He was 9 for 15 from the field. And get this, 6 for 9 from 3. Jesus. Gobert. 12 points, 7 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks on 4 for 8 shooting, 4 for 6 from the foul line. I have to say, games like this is where you feel like he's a role player, not a star. It's just honest. He was decent. I just don't expect much from. I don't expect the craziest stuff from Gobert. Karl Anthony Towns, just not good enough at all. 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, just 1 turnover, thankfully. But listen to this, 6 for 20 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3. So I know those threes were there, but resorting back to his old ways, 9 out of his 20 shots from beyond the arc, and he's shooting like shit. He's got to get better shots. You got to look to get Kyrie and Luka potentially, one of you guarding him more frequently and attack there. And then the Ant-Man, it's just not good enough there. 19 points, 11 rebounds, so you take that. 8 assists, almost a triple-double, 2 steals, 3 turnovers on 6 for 16 shooting, 5 for 12 from 3. So, okay, you shot 42% from 3. Whoop-de-fucking-do. You were 1 for 4 from 2, and you only shot 2 twos. Again, I know Dallas likes to cut off the rim, but you have a mid-range and a post-game now. This is where you use it. This is where you have to use the mid-range in the post-game. This is where it reigns supreme. Postseason basketball. You cannot just play this way. He's 22. I got to cut him some slack. He's 22. But that's what it's going to – 12 threes is too much when you're Anthony Edwards. You can get to the basket the way you can. It's just too much for me. I don't give a shit that he shot 42%. They lost. And he even said it himself. He's got to get downhill more. He's got to. Even if it means drive and kick, at least if he's getting downhill and getting 2 feet in the paint, it's going to be real help coming, not that half-ass stunt and recover that Dallas was getting away with in the fourth quarter. So not good enough from the Ant-Man. Is there anything else I left out from Minnesota? Oh, so like if you're Minnesota, do you switch up the strategy? I would say, as I said, switch. Don't just be throw and drop at Luka with Gobert. You got to hedge this, blitz him a little bit here and there. In terms of some small ball lineups, you could try a Nas Reed, Nikhil, McDaniels, and no, I guess that's it, right? That's all they play. I'm taking, I guess Cat. They already run that though. They play that lineup. Cat. They won't switch with Cat. Is there anyone else on this roster that they could play that could switch potentially? No one that's going to get in the rotation at this point. They had Kyle Anderson. Okay, so yeah, Kyle Anderson, McDaniels, Reed, Ant, and Walker, and just switch everything. See if it works. The main key is going to be taking away the lob of the offensive rebound from Lively there. That's going to be the key. But I would like to see him try that. All right, now how about Dallas? Oh, by the way, in terms of the team stats, the Timberwolves shot 43% from the field, 37 from three, 61% from the line. So not even the best shooting night for them at all. Dallas, 49% from the field, so they shot much better. But they shot even worse from three, just 24%, and they just made 6 threes and only got 25 off. And as for the Wolves, they shot 49 threes to 42s. In this case, 2 was greater than 3. 16 for 17 from the foul line for Dallas. How about that? 7 missed free throws for the Wolves. That's got to be something to talk about. 2 from Gobert, 3 from Conley. That's ridiculous. Okay, so he was awful. You can't be missing 3 free throws, Mike Conley. Mike Conley still hasn't won a conference finals game in his entire career. 0 for 5, son. Mike Sunley. No, I'm just kidding. I have a lot of respect for Mike Conley, but fucking hate Memphis. The Grizzlies, not the city. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, yeah, Dallas. Dallas time. All right. How about Jaden Hardy? Played 9 minutes, was 1 for 2 with 2 points and 4 assists. So give him a little bit of offensive punch there. Dante Exum played just 3 minutes, didn't register in any category. Tim Hardaway Jr. played 10 minutes, registered in 4 rebounds and 1 steal, didn't even get a shot off. He was a +7, I guess, so he wasn't bad. You'll take that. Josh Green made some stupid plays. That fucking foul that he committed, they were up by 4, was ridiculous. Oh, yeah, I'm being a little harsh on Conley. He missed 2 free throws out of those final 3. 1 was on purpose, though. But the fact that he missed that free throw was ass. Because if he had made it, it would have been a 2-point game, right? And then, yeah, it would have been a 2-point game, and he would have missed on purpose. So that was bunsies. But Josh Green, 3 points on 1 for 4 shooting, 1 for 2 from 3. That was bonehead stuff. How about Daniel Gafford? 10 points and 9 rebounds. He was a -15, though, which was a team worst. But again, I mean, it was actually a game worst. But I know it's become a pattern. But next game, I'm actually going to I want to focus on the game more from a Wolves perspective, though, because it's a must-win for them. But we'll see if Gafford, is really the problem here, or is really what the plus-minus says, because I don't know. I mean, 10 points, 9 rebounds. He was still catching lobs. He was still good in the second half. He's a vertical threat. 5 for 9 from the field for him in this game. 4 offensive rebounds. How about Derek Lively, though? 9 points, 11 boards, 3 assists, 4 of those offensive rebounds, 2 blocks, just 1 turnover on 4 for 4 shooting. I mean, this is a rookie making a huge impact in the postseason, man. How about Derrick Jones Jr.? 35 minutes played, another solid night at the office for him. Had the toughest assignment defensively and did a good job. 8 points, 4 boards, 2 assists on 4 for 9 shooting and 0 for 2 from 3. PJ Washington had one of his more quiet games of this postseason, but still 13 points, 7 boards, 2 blocks. Did have 3 turnovers, though. 4 for 10 from the field and shot very poorly from 3, 2 for 8. And then you've got the big boys. Let's go with Kyrie. 30 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, and a block. 2 turnovers on 12 for 23 shooting, 0 for 3 from deep. So 12 for 20 from 2, 6 for 6 from the line. And then my player of the game, who played 41 minutes, Luka Doncic, because of the way he closed. 33 points, 6 boards, 8 assists, 3 steals, and a block. How about that? 4 turnovers on 12 for 26 shooting, 3 for 10 from 3. Still, that's a lot of threes. He was bricking. 6 for 7 from the foul line. And that's it. The Dallas Mavericks get the win by a score of 108 to 105. Now let's talk about game 2 between Boston and Indiana. And I want to say there are 50 people on YouTube, 48 on Twitter. I have posted the link on my Twitter of YouTube. Please come to us on YouTube here. Twitter is not the place to be. If you love Twitter so much, stay on Twitter, put me on the computer, or put me on the, I don't know, what else you got? Xbox? Put me on the TV, on the computer, I don't know. But get off Twitter. Please come to YouTube. That's where we want to be. It's 50 to 48 ratio. Now it's 46 to 48. I would like if we can get it to 60 YouTube and like 40 Twitter. But anyway, all right. Let's talk about the Celtics and the Pacers. You know what's interesting about this game is that I legitimately felt like the Celtics were down 1-0 in the series. It felt like they were because they didn't play well enough last game, and the Pacers were just played so well. I forgot they kind of choked the game. But it felt like exactly, it confirmed what I felt after the game 1 was that was their chance to steal it and potentially make this a series without Porzingis, and they didn't. They blew it, and the Celtics just played better in this game. When the Celtics play at their best, and they weren't even at their best necessarily, but when they play well, Pacers are not going to really stand a chance. Tatum was guarding Miles Turner to switch that pick and pop, and it worked to perfection. They did not get nearly as many pick and pops with Turner. He only had 7 shots in the entire game. Horford was guarding Siakam, and man, Siakam was a problem throughout the game, especially when he was guarded by Smalls. I actually think Horford did a pretty good job. 13 for 17 for Siakam. Drew Holiday guarding Tyrese Halliburton. Derek White on Andrew Nembhard, Jaylen Brown against Neesmith, and then Turner on Al, Neesmith on JT, Siakam on JB, Halliburton on White, Nembhard on Drew. Pacers switching everybody besides Turner and Halliburton. Turner in drop, Halliburton hedging and recovering. And it was a solid start for Indy again. They came out firing. They were pushing the pace. At one point, they went with a no 5 lineup, so they went small. Halliburton was hedging. Horford was in drop. Turner was in drop. Jason Tatum started out 1 for 6 in the first, settling and breaking jumpers. And it was a good ending to the quarter for Drew Holiday. It had a nice bounce pass where he kind of got caught in the air for a sec. And then he had a 3-ball after getting a stop on Halliburton. But the Pacers were shooting 58% in the first quarter to have a 27-25 lead after 1. TJ McConnell was the leading scorer for them in the first with 7. Nobody else with more than 5. Jaylen Brown came out aggressive, though. 7 points in the first, getting downhill and attacking. Tatum played the whole first and had just 2 points on 1 for 6 shooting. But in the second quarter, the Celtics took control of the game, and it began with a 20-0 run led by Jaylen Brown, who had one of the best playoff games of his career. He was getting downhill left and right. He was attacking early in transition or semi-transition, knocking down the 3-ball and showing off the bag, which, as Doris Burke alluded to in commentary, has improved every single season. And he also had some movement off the ball with some back cuts, had a nice lob where he was found by, I think, Drew Holiday. And when the Celtics are running some actions for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to come off the ball, I think that's so much better. Take advantage of Drew Holiday and Derek White as table setters. Like, it's just, you don't want to become a team that just runs high pick and roll. Those teams usually don't win. Brown, 17 points in the second quarter. 17 of the 32 for the Celtics. Siakam did close the quarter, though, on that 20-0 run with some stuff to keep the Pacers in the game. 12 points on 6 for 7 shooting in the second quarter alone. Just catching the ball at the foul line and, or in the mid-range area, mid-post, and hitting some turnarounds. Jaylen Brown was just getting shot over all night by Siakam due to his size, which was anything but the bubble. And the Pacers, by the way, in that 20-0 run, they were struggling to score without Halliburton, so they got him right back in the game. How about some O'Shea Brissett minutes tonight? Al came out of nowhere. O'Shea Brissett getting some minutes, and he had some decent moments. He was defending pretty well. He was out there for the run, so. By the way, speaking of defense, Derek White's defense at the rim is just so ridiculous for a guard. The shot blocking, the rotations, the way he's just not afraid of any sort of physicality or size. He was impressing me, man. He was impressing me. Pacers went scoreless for like 5 minutes, But the takeaway from the first half, man, Tatum was not getting an easy baskets on some Paul George shit, settling. But Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, along with Siakam, they had some great halves. Drew Holiday making passes, defending. He picked up right where he left off last game. And then Jaylen Brown just so assertive. And one thing I have to say, Jaylen Brown's quicker than Jason Tatum. He gets downhill easier. I haven't said that over the years, but he is. He gets downhill easier. He's faster, a little more explosive. And, Tatum's a little bigger. Let's see. And that's at halftime. It was 57-51. Celtics were up. Jaylen had 24 at the half. Holiday had 10 at the half, and he was 4 for 4. And then Derek White was 1 for 7. Jason Tatum was 2 for 8 at halftime. Siakam, 16 points. He was the only Pacer in double figures at the half. In the third quarter, Siakam was getting really good looks in the pick and pop, and he was getting the better of Jaylen Brown when he was catching the ball at the free throw line, going to work. But Jaylen Brown was still aggressive on the other end, scoring left and right. And the Celtics, they were putting Tyrese Halliburton in the action the entire second half. And I'll tell you what, it was brutal. They were getting a good shot every time down. Every time. This was bad. This tells me Halliburton is not a good defender. He doesn't move well laterally. He gets a couple steals here and there, but he's not fully always engaged on that end of the floor. He does not have great defensive instincts. You don't really see him anticipating anything quickly enough or this and that. I think he talks. I think he tries, but he's not that much better than Trae Young defensively at all. They were putting him in the action every time and we're getting good shots. Every time. And it was tough to watch. I mean, not really, but if you're a Pacers fan, it's ugh. Every time going at your best player like this. And it felt like it was taking a little bit of a toll in that third quarter on him offensively. And by the way, as I said with Horford, I think he did a better job of guarding Pascal than the wings, because Pascal's not really getting to the rim the same way that he was. I don't know why that is. Than 2 years ago or so, but Al Horford can at least be a body that can contest him a little bit better, and he can't just bully as much. Holiday made so many good passes, man. I just want to mention that. And by the way, third quarter, Jason Tatum got way more aggressive going downhill. I don't like this. There's so much anti-Tatum stuff out there because he's a Celtic and because his team is really good and he's always had help outside of the 2021 season. But this game was not in the balance at halftime. I don't know what people are talking about. He was way more aggressive going downhill in the third quarter, and it was creating a lot of stuff. And then late in the quarter, he was, attacking Ben Shepherd in the mid-post. And when he's catching the ball there, exactly the same conversation with Paul George. Catching the ball there, he was just turning and shooting right over them. One of my least favorite things about this era, and it's a complete knock on the players today, yes it is that even the dudes that have the mid-range and post-game just don't embrace it enough because analytics discourage it and make these guys do pick and roll all the time. Fuck that. This is the playoffs. If people really consider Michael Jordan the best player in history, look at the way he scored. And they just use the cop out of a different era. Kobe Bryant played post-illegal defense, if that's what you want to say. But again, different era. Threes, this, that. Kawhi Leonard, I got another counter for you every time. Jokic just won posting up a bunch. And, well, they were pick and pop heavy. They were motion offense. But the point is, mid-range and post-game in the playoffs, when you have it, it's better than just chucking threes. When you're bricking the three ball, you got to do something different. You can't just start your moves all the time at the three-point line with the whole defense staring at you. That applies to Ant-Man. Luka, LeBron and Luka are just kind of exceptional. They just kind of are. But that's another thing. I kind of knock LeBron sometimes on that as well on an all-time scale. I don't like that. I don't like the constant. You want to put that defense, get behind the defense a little bit in the half court sometimes. But I like that from Tatum. By the way, if the Celtics are going to switch that pick and pop with Turner, the Pacers got to feed Turner. And you saw it a little bit more in the third quarter, but not quite enough throughout the game. He's got Derek White on him. Turner's shown that he can abuse smalls throughout the postseason. You got to do that. Aaron Nesmith was working hard against his former team, getting aggressive, playing good D on Tatum, trying to rebound. Every 50-50 ball, he seems like he's around. But the Celtics had a 7-0 run later in the quarter, led by a Jaylen Brown 3 and 1. As I said, Tatum had a good third quarter. And the Celtics, they were just rolling on all cylinders in that third. And you see when the Celtics can clamp down on both ends, Pacers don't stand a fucking chance. They don't. It was a 36-29 third quarter in favor of Boston. Siakam had 10 points for the Pacers in that quarter. Nobody else had more than 4. And then Tyrese Halliburton had apparently leg soreness and didn't come back in. So I hope he's okay. I do not want to see the best player on the third team the Celtics are playing get injured. Come on. This series is already like boring enough as is, even though game 1 was electric. Tatum had 8 in the third and played the whole thing. And Brown had 9 in the third and played the whole thing. They were both 4 for 6 in the quarter. But how about Derek White with 10 points in the quarter on 4 for 5 shooting and 2 for 3 from deep with 2 assists? And that's not to mention the defense. The guy was a beast. And you know who else I thought had a pretty good game? Peyton Pritchard. Offensively, getting to the chicken. There was one possession where Obi Toppin was picking him up full court. And it was almost like the Oregon days, just in a drill. Peyton getting picked up full court. He's got full confidence in his handle. You're not taking the ball from me. Turns on the jets. Pump fake at the rim. Lay. Peyton Pritchard gave a good lift off the bench. Jason Tatum had 11 in the fourth quarter, by the way. And you could say the game was kind of over at that point. But, hey, man. You win the game, you win the game. The Celtics take a 2-0 lead. First time they'd won the first 2 home games since last year's first round against the Hawks. It's crazy. I still feel like they lost game 1, but they won 2-0. They've taken care of business, and they're 2 games away from their second NBA Finals in 3 years. This is the year, man. They have to do it. I'm not saying that they can't do it next year, but it's not. You've not gotten a better chance than this, and you don't know if you're going to get a better chance next year because the league changes every year. You are the most experienced team left. You are the most star-studded team left. You have to win it. You have home court advantage. You have to fucking win this. This has to be banner 18. It has to be. I hate how people try to discredit Tatum so much, though. If he wasn't playing, they would not win a championship. I guarantee that. They would not. So stop saying, like, oh, he's in cruise and this and that. Like, okay, he has a bigger luxury than other stars because he's got more help. But, like, it's not anything. Like, these are the same people that praise, like, I'm not going to say it, man. Guys like LeBron James and Kevin Durant have had a lot of help. I'm just going to put it that way. A lot of help. It's like, miss me with this. Jaylen Brown, who last season was getting clowned all over the internet for not being able to dribble his left hand. So now all of a sudden his team is too stacked. Like, I just the way people are talking about the Celtics is because, I mean, of course, everybody hates the Celtics. That's an obvious thing. But, like, if you win, you win. We've seen far more, like, unfair. The Celtics are not unfair. Their 3 bench players are Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and Luke Cornett. Give me a break, dude. And by the way, Jason Tatum is going to have to play well to win the championship. Don't get it twisted. But the Celtics win it 126-110. I hope Halliburton's okay. As far as the Pacers, your chance was last game. He shot 52% in this game, 38% from 3, 69 from the line. So that's the worst category of them all, to be honest. Pacers threw in the towel halfway through the fourth because it was basically done. Isaiah Jackson played 17 minutes, had 3 points and 5 boards on 1 for 3 shooting. TJ McConnell, one of his quieter games, to be honest. He had a good first quarter, but after that, not much. 9 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 turnovers on 4 for 10 shooting and 1 for 1 from 3. Ben Shepherd played 23 minutes, had 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover on 3 for 6 shooting, missed all his threes and made all his twos. Obi Toppin, 11 points, 3 rebounds on 4 for 6 shooting. I did not notice him as much as other games. I'm going to be honest. 1 for 2 from 3. Then the starters. Aaron Nesmith, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers on 3 for 7 shooting, 1 for 3 from deep. The Pacers have turned the ball over 16 times. They turned the ball over too much in game 1, and that number might be a little too high as well. So one thing they have to really focus on in Indiana is taking care of the ball. Andrew Nembhard, I thought he played very well, actually. He was making some shots one-on-one against dudes with some great counters, snatchbacks, great stuff. 16 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover on 6 for 12 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3, 3 for 4 from the foul line in 26 minutes. He did deal with a little bit of foul trouble with 4 fouls. And then you have Miles Turner, who, as I said, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 4 turnovers, 3 for 7 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3. So the pick and pop, if they're going to switch that, you need to look to exploit the smaller guy. Siakam, my player of the Pacers team, 28 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 turnovers on 13 for 17 shooting and 2 for 2 from 3. 2 really good games in a row for Pascal. Then Tyrese, who's okay. 10 points. Actually, no, he was not that good because defensively he was just garbage. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers on 4 for 8 shooting, 2 for 6 from 3. Everything's a 3 with that guy, though, to me. Although he made 2 mid-ranges in this game, which I liked. But yeah. Celtics shot 53% from the field, 40.5 from 3, and 85 from the line. They were awesome. Also, 13 offensive rebounds for them. A lot of it crashing from the corner. They did a good job with that. O'Shea Brissett, 12 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds, 3 steals on 1-for-1 shooting. You'll take that all day. And there was a really interesting sound clip where Drew Holiday was saying, you know, did you have Tyrese on you in transition? You should have ducked in. I was looking for you, which just tells you 2 things. One, they're really looking to attack Halliburton. If they're trying to attack Halliburton with O'Shea Brissett, that tells you how bad of a defender they think Halliburton is. And then 2, it also just shows Drew Holiday looking to get, you know, a guy that's not even been in the rotation, something, you know? So let's see. How about Luke Cornett? Look a little. He went back to the locker room with a wrist injury. So we'll see how that happens. You know, I think Xavier Tillman can come in and do a decent job. I know he's a little bit undersized. A donut for Cornett, 2 rebounds. Then Pritchard, he was a standout off the bench. Hauser was just 1 for 5. 2 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals and a block, though. You'll take that. Pritchard had 12 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, just 1 turnover on 4 for 6 shooting, 2 for 2 from 3, and 2 for 2 from the foul line. Really solid game for PP3. How about the starters? Al Horford, solid game rebounding, 6 points, 10 boards, 2 steals, just 1 turnover, 4 offensive rebounds on 3 for 6 shooting, 0 for 1 from 3 in 25 minutes. Derek White, man, he was great. Again, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal and a block, and no turnovers on 8 for 15 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 3 from the line. This guy is just, he has every single making of a championship role player. I guarantee you this, it will not be Derek White's fault if the Celtics don't win a championship. I can promise. How about Jrue Holiday? 15 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists. Nice double-double for him. And, of course, what he does on defense. 6 for 7 from the field and 3 for 4 from 3. Ooh, where are the Jrue Holiday haters at now? Where are the pussies on Twitter at? Trying to tag me about Jrue, this and that. True shooting, true shooting, true shooting, true shooting. How about defense championships? And when he plays offensively well, it's like this. Good passer, good teammate. Yeah, that's the kind of guys that win championships in this league. But we'll see. It hasn't got. He could have bricks and lose them this. Not lose them a series, but he could have some big time bricking games going forward and lose them games, or that contributes to them losing. But give me Jrue Holiday on my team every fucking day of the week, man. Great performance in the first 2 games by him. And then you have the Jays. Jason Tatum with 23 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 4 turnovers, though, on 9 for 20 shooting and 1 for 7 from 3. The 3-ball just was not falling. He just got to not fall too in love with that. I want to see what his stats were like in the second half because it was just a totally different ball game for him. Yeah, 19 points on 7 for 12 shooting to go along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. He was 1 for 5 from 3 in the second half, too, so he wasn't really actually hitting from 3 at all in the second half. But solid performance by JT for me. Good enough. Brown, though, tied for his playoff career high. 40 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists and a steal, 2 turnovers, 14 for 27 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, 8 for 11 from the line. You'd like to see him make one more of those if you're a Celtics fan. 37 minutes played. I have to say, Jaylen Brown, first 2 games, he's been better than Tatum for me. That game-tying shot and then the way he played in this game, Jaylen is looking like he's got a point to prove after the slander of last season. He's been great in the playoffs so far. And, 2 games away, man. That's it for me tonight in this one, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not know when my next live will be. I truly do not know. But just remember, every game will be covered on this postseason in this on this channel. Anyway, now to the live subscribers waiting patiently in the chat. Super chats are turned on if you want to drop $1 or a dime. Peace. Okay, hold on. What was this? Washington and Derek Jones Jr. mainly for me, but also Lively and Gafford's presence around. Did I hit the camera? Particularly, I thought Gobert You know, he really. I was looking at this game. That was a weird moment for the audio, I guess. All right, super chat to turn on. Going to drop $1 a dime. Let's see what we got. First comment. What's up, Kyle? Let's get your guys' names in here. Kyle. Guys, come to fucking YouTube. If you guys, what are these 57 people on Twitter doing? You're not commenting at all. Just watching. Yo, what's up? Untucked Kyrie versus Game 6 Clay. What's untucked Kyrie? Morris Castillo says, Raccoon Squad in the room waiting for Sir Darian. Appreciate you, man. Mavs fans. Indiana really should have won game 1. What an absolute choke job. Yep. As of now, who's your pick to be the champs? You know what? I'm going to go with Boston. I'm going to do it. They should win it. Dime is late to the live because he's currently on the phone. Yeah. Golden Knight. Shout out to Golden Knight. Enjoy the game tomorrow, man. I would be there, but I have some business to attend to. I just noticed that Ant's offensive bag is not yet an elite level yet. I feel you. Kenny K says, go Mavs. By the way, if you Mavs fans that are commenting are on Twitter, please comment your handles so I can tag you. I don't overreact to game 1s because that's why it's a series, because there will be a series of adjustments. A plethora of adjustments, rather. Yes. Leo Reo Ibardo says, if they're not going to use drop coverage against the Mavs, I already explained that. Ant shouldn't even be guarding Kai or Luka till the second or maybe third quarter. That's why he was gassed at the end. What's your alternative? Mike Conley guarding him? So you might have to just start Nikhil. Uzier Khan says Boston with the easy chip. We'll see about that, Uzi. Whoever they play in the West is going to be good. He should be on Jones, Green, or Hardaway till the end. Rasheed Wallace? Okay. Against the Mavs, J-Dub and Dort are way better than McDaniels and Ant. Against the Mavs, J-Dub. Why do you say that? Because Dort's stronger? Sheed shot a short jumper with his left hand. Okay. Better defense. Celtics, I'm talking to Minnesota. Lively size and athleticism could be key to match up with Cat and Reed. I saw that in game 1. Yeah. 2022 Warriors. We already know what happens when we take Rudy away from the rim. That's what I just sent the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals. That was different, though. That was helping off of somebody, not blitzing. Wolves' size backfires them. They can't match Kyrie's speed. McDaniel should be on Luka and Conley on Kyrie in the first half. That sounds... I know Conley is still a decent defender, but that sounds pretty risky. If you're Minnesota, do you continue to play drop or do you blitz? I already said that. I watched an old MJ versus Kobe matchup and spacing was bad. There were 5 times where all 5 offensive players were inside the arc, but it was only 1 or 2 at the long ball line. Yes. I think Minnesota should look at blitzing when Gafford is in the game. His short roll decision making is questionable. Okay, I like that point. That is a good point. What are your thoughts on the Eastern Conference being weak? What else is changing my life? Ant wants to guard every Mavericks player. LMAO. We get it, Ant. That's not smart. Ant even guard Luka. Luka makes Ant look like a child guarding him. Gafford has to go against starters like Gobert while Lively comes off the bench. Yeah, that's a great point. I was going to say that. Facts. Ant looked like he needed an asthma inhaler. My boy looked finished. Mavs winning, making only 6 threes, not shooting only 6 threes. Eastern Conference is cheeks compared to the West. The Mavs and the Wolves has had and will have the toughest road to the ring. Pacers third toughest, and the Celtics got clear easiest road. Wouldn't kill you to put a TH, man. TJJ is an elite defender. Yeah, he is. 1 miss was intentional. Yep. Heat, no Butler. Cavs, no Allen. D-Mitch got hurt in the Pacers. That's the yellow brick road, not a rocky road like the West. Lively future deep boy. What's up, Daniel Barry? Says morning. Luka defensive player of the year. I saw earlier in the year how Luka stepped up his defense. He's not Vando or Suggsy yet. He's never going to be. But he's in better shape and is noticeably better on that end. Thoughts on Bronny? Should not be drafted this year, man. He needs more time in college. I don't think people are complaining that the Celtics are overpowered, but I guess it's the Tatum conversations. Because everyone is skeptical if he can be the guy. Okay, so we're going to find out if he can or can't. I'm still skeptical, too. It's not out yet, bro, Andrew. The show clipped. It's not out yet. Anthony Edwards, next Michael Jordan. Let's watch Lawrence Fishburne play Glenn. Mavs versus Celtics. That would be amazing. When do we take that series? One of the Clippers game. Okay, Jaime, hilarious. Clippers champs? Yeah, right. It's boring without Clippers basketball. It's not. Time to bring back Pooh Richardson. Time, we already know about Glenn, but when were you calling for him to get fired? After 2017. After 2017, I was done. The Clippers are moving to Tijuana. Okay, shut the fuck up, dude. Moving to Inglewood. Can you even go to a game? Who are you a fan of? The Lakers or LeBron? Celtics just boring to watch. I don't agree. I'm still hating on Drew. He's the ninth op. Give me a fucking break. No, he's not. Just because you don't prioritize defense, Phoenix Gen Z, and you jack off the true shooting percentage all the time. That's not the case. He's what? The fifth? Let's see. He's probably the fifth option scoring wise. But he guards the best player. Do you value that at all? That he guards the best player on the other teams? Because he does. Every fucking series, too. Let's see. I guess I gotta go to the Boston Celtics stats. Have they updated this shit? They probably haven't updated it for tonight. How many games did the Celtics play in the postseason? So in the first round, they played 5. Okay, 10, 12. They should have 12 games. Now they only have it for 11. But through 11 games, Tatum, Brown, White, yeah. Holiday's fifth. So there you go. If Celtics don't win title, they're officially sore losers. Yeah, I feel you. Paul George and Terrence Mann in 2031 first round pick for Giannis. There's no reason why Boston shouldn't win it all, assuming Pingus is healthy. Yeah, I agree. The Clippers should beat the Celtics team, in my opinion. Really? Where do you do your high school coach? I don't coach high school yet. It's not even about Ant's bag. His playmaking is at a wall. Both. I agree. I think both. Prime run our test on Clippers will win title. Instead of who? Name your favorite dime dropper intro. This one. This one's my favorite. Dime, you're going to sit at the wall? Yes, but I'm not going to have season tickets. Did you ever mention why your name is Dime Dropper? Yes. I like pass first guys. My name starts with D. That's my best skill in the game. And yeah. Knicks versus Clippers 2025 finals. Let's stop that. Dime's the next Kevin Harlan. I don't know if I'm going to be a play-by-play commentator, and I would not say that. Should JJ be a coach? Or what are your thoughts on that? If he wants to be, he can do whatever he wants. Cheech Marin should interview. Don't worry, it's coming. Man, if you put any star into that low usage role, getting uncontested corner threes, he better be hitting them and play defense. Oh, stop. You know what? Part of it is having a guy that won't take away shots from somebody else or the ball from someone else. Have you ever considered that? Because you love these high usage guys, but they take away. Sometimes less is more is what a lot of modern fans just clearly don't understand. And sometimes less is more. You don't want Drew Holiday doing a ton. I actually think they should want him to handle the ball a little bit more as a table setter. Low usage on purpose. Some people, do you want me to tell you something? If you put Harden on that team, is he going to be low usage? Is he going to make them better? Because I think Harden, I guess you could make the argument that Harden was better for us. I'm not going to totally go away from that. I would still rather have Drew Holiday every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. But the point is having guys that can adapt to this shit, which means you don't have to shoot so much. How many shots is Drew Holiday taking? And how little is he on the ball for the most part? Like, that stuff matters to me. He's only taking 10 shots a game. Like, that's not a big deal. And he's shooting 47-40 splits and 92. I mean, come on, he's shooting. That's pretty damn good. What about J.J. Hickson? Was underrated. At the time, he was not bad. But LeBron made him look better than he was. Harlan, Breener, Albert. Ooh, my GOAT play-by-play is Chick Hearn. That's not in LA. That's what I'm saying. Harlan, Breener, Albert. Marv Albert's the most accomplished. But you know what? I think Breen is my favorite listen, to be honest. I didn't think so at first, but he's grown on me over the last decade. So I'm going to go with Breen. Harlan is great. I never said it wasn't good. Hell no. Portability. It makes it sound like PlayStation. Why can't we just say adaptability? Is that the original term before they started using that one when it comes to roster construction? But let's not gas 6'4" OG Anunoby. He can't create. OG Anunoby's not throwing those passes, man. Here you guys go with the disingenuous arguments. OG Anunoby is not throwing those passes that Drew was throwing. Stop that. He's not handling the ball like Drew either. Like, let's quit it. He's a champion for a fucking reason. And some of your favorite players ain't going to win shit. They couldn't guard a fucking mannequin. And they want to just ball dominate the whole time. Get out of my face. Harlan right between the eyes. And outside those three names, who else is one of the best play-by-play? Chick Hearn. Oh, you're talking about in the league right now? I think Brian Anderson and Ruka were great. I think Brian Siemens great. I think Eric Collins is hysterical. I think who else is there out there? I mean, Kevin Calabro is a legend. He's the Sonics. He's the Sonics guy. Now he's the Blazers guy, but he's a legend for Phoenix. I think Followill's not bad in Dallas. I think Eric Reed's a Heat legend. A lot of the play-by-play guys are just top-notch. Of course, Ralph Lawler. Of course, Ralph Lawler. Who else? Ian Eagle. I mean, come on. He's Mr. Nets. He's Mr. Nets. Who else? Mark Jones is fantastic in my opinion. I don't think Bowler is that bad in Utah. So there's a lot of guys. Drew is in the perfect role right now, but let's not pretend he wasn't putrid in a high usage role. He won a championship. It's like, yeah, he didn't play well enough last year against the Heat. I do agree. And you can argue he didn't play well enough against the Celtics, but he won a championship. Some of your favorite players can never do that, no matter how many times they try, no matter what usage they have. So that matters. James Harden is just not, that's just false. That's just false. Yes, he's the GOAT for dealing with a trash team. Never got his name. His name is Chris Fisher. Okay, he's an announcer. You're talking about the play-by-play. Chris Fisher? Who else is a good play-by-play guy? I mean, what's his name in Orlando? David Steele. He's been there from the beginning. He's pretty legendary as well. The play-by-play guys are just legends all the way around. Yeah, right. I got to move up the ranks for fam. Much more qualified people than me. Any last questions? That's true. I am not looking forward to Redick and Burke calling the finals. I don't think their analysis is actually bad. But I just like there's no like, as they say, there's no aura to it, man. It's just Breen and the sidekicks. Like I don't know. I saw the reason why they canned Van Gundy, and I knew why it was because he complained. It's like, bro, he's just speaking for a lot of us fans. They want everyone to just suck the NBA off 24/7 now, and that's why they're gonna try to can up like inside as well. And that's why the haters of inside come, just because they speak their mind. Mike Gorman's a legend, but he was declining massively. He's one of the greatest of all time, but he was declining massively for Boston. Time becomes Clippers president. Oh my God. How am I forgetting? Phoenix Gen Z's in here. I have to give a shout out to his guys. Matt Devlin, Matty D. He's awesome. He's a legend. That's it. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Comment on the video, please. All your thoughts. I got to do a Locked On Clippers marathon the next 24 hours before I go to on a vacation. So peace out, everybody. Yeah, Mike Gorman's call on Bird Steel. Hold on. What do I have here for my intro? Let's check. I forget which one I have.
Gilgeous Alexander.
One. It's this one.
Jackson on the drive. Kicks it out for Man, three-pointer. Bang! Oh, what a man!
Magic down the middle. Just what I thought. A hook shot at 12. Good!
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it! They win it!
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ. Right there.
So it was the Johnny Most commentary for the one I used. Yeah, it wasn't Gorman. All right, guys, have a great one, and I'll catch you soon. Also, check out my previews, guys. Those were good content. Let me know your predictions. Give me your prediction for the series in those comments. Peace.